could talk today. Mike Evans, Buccaneers wide receiver, probably future Hall of Famer, been consistently gotten over 1,000 yards like 12 years in a row or something crazy. I know Jordan Elliott, both of our friends, and if you guys are on Twitter, you've definitely heard of him, writes for NBC, right? He's a big fan of Mike Evans. Mike Evans just got a contract extension, and I wanted to ask you, because I heard some conflicting opinions. I wanted to ask you if you thought that Mike Evans, did his contract affect Brandon Aiyuk's price? Did Brandon Aiyuk's price go up after Mike Evans? Did it go down, or is it unaffected because they are definitely at different places in their careers and with their teams?
You know what? I think if you ask Brandon Aiyuk, he would be like, yes, this is great for me. But I simply don't think that Brandon Aiyuk is there in his career yet. I mean, we know what Mike Evans is. I mean, you just said he's probably a future Hall of Famer. That's who Mike Evans is. I don't think we're talking about Brandon Aiyuk in that kind of light quite yet. Maybe we could someday. But no, like Brandon Aiyuk isn't there yet. The 49ers, are facing extending him. But I don't think this Evans extension really, increases any type of ceiling. Like, I think this is the ceiling. I don't think it sets the market for Aiyuk. Maybe it sets the market for other wide receivers that are in that range of Mike Evans. But again, I don't think Brandon Aiyuk is quite there yet. And looking at the breakdown of his contract, it's 2 years, $52 million. 26 million average per year, 35 million guaranteed. Spotrac does currently project that Brandon Aiyuk's deal will be 4 years, 96 million, average salary of 24 million. So a little bit lower than Mike Evans. And I feel like, that's a pretty fair projection from Spotrac. So for now, say like around that range. Yeah, Randy says 23 million tops. Yeah, that's definitely possibility as well.
I've always worked under the assumption, unless you're talking about like a Tyreek Hill, I've kind of assumed that because this is how quarterbacks work too. Like, doesn't the next quarterback or the next person usually get more? Like Dak Prescott is going to be getting like the highest paid contract in the NFL just because he's the next quarterback and he's going to want more than the one that was last paid. And I always assumed with especially when there's going to be so many wide receivers getting paid in one off season, I kind of assumed, unless it's like, obviously there's exceptions for Tyreek Hill or maybe even like a Devontae Adams, like someone but I don't know, maybe Mike Evans is in that bracket and I'm just not giving him that credit. My assumption was whoever kind of got paid earlier on. That's why I thought the 49ers should extend him sooner, is usually like the price goes up.
Yeah, you're right about that when it comes to quarterbacks. I mean, yeah, with quarterbacks, it's like every new deal sets the market, and that's the new that's the new like ceiling, and the next person, or floor, I guess that's the new floor, and then the next guy will get more than that. The difference between like quarterbacks and wide receivers though is like quarterbacks, you're only giving an extension to one guy, right? Like, and if it's that guy that you're extending, it's going to be your franchise quarterback. If it's not, you're going to let him walk. Wide receivers, like, you might still want to extend him, even if you have two starting wide receivers. And so I think just given that those are two different positions, they're handled a little bit differently, and so they don't always necessarily set the market with every new deal with wide receivers. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Aiyuk and his agent probably going to try, but I simply don't see the 49ers, really budging in that. So then they're going to probably meet somewhere in the middle.
Okay, because see, Al Bundy says Aiyuk won't get less than Evans because Aiyuk is much younger than Evans. And this is where I feel like the conversation gets interesting, because Evans, you're kind of saying he's at a different caliber. He is a future Hall of Famer. But then you also look at that contract isn't it like 2 years? Like, it seems like a contract you would give an older veteran. The Buccaneers are obviously trying to keep him around. I assume that at the combine, where they're doing all the, don't they always say like you can't make deals and stuff before free agency and all that actually happens? I feel like Mike Evans wouldn't be signing to the Buccaneers unless he had kind of gotten an idea about what other teams might give him, and maybe if Baker Mayfield is sticking around there. I bet Brandon Aiyuk's agent also asked around. But yeah, my assumption is going to be, at least from Brandon Aiyuk's side, that his argument is going to be, if he was targeted as much as Evans, that he would be putting up, and he is putting up equal, about equal amount as production. He's younger, so he's kind of on the ascension, where although Mike Evans is fantastic and has had a fantastic career, he's kind of on the descending part of his career. But
yeah, I mean, there's definitely two different arguments to be made, and Aiyuk's is going to be that, like Al Bundy here says, I'm the younger guy, and like you say, like, if I was getting that many targets, I would be putting up those numbers. So that's definitely an argument, and that's, those are the conversations that are going to happen in the midst of this negotiation. So I just don't see the 49ers being like, okay, yeah, because Mike Evans got that. Yeah, we're going to give you the same. So that's why I say they'll probably more than likely meet somewhere in the middle.
yeah. Now, I do think CeeDee Lamb and those guys, like, I know Justin Jefferson, that's another guy. Like, I don't think if Justin Jefferson got his contract that Aiyuk would be able to, like, base it off. It would definitely not be a thing. Like, I think Jefferson will go last, but even if he was going to get his contract right now, I assume that Aiyuk would understand that he was going to get less than that. I do think if like a guy like CeeDee Lamb gets, it'll be interesting to see who goes next and where those wide receivers are, because I do think that Brandon Aiyuk's argument is going to be, if given the opportunity, I would do this. And then that's when if you're the 49ers, you're like, okay, well, in this offense, those aren't going to be your opportunities. Those aren't going to be the targets. And that's kind of where you assume that things might get a little bit personal. Now, when we're talking about, what is it called? It's not like canoodling. What is it called when you are like working behind the scenes to find deals and stuff like that? You're not supposed to do it in the NFL.
Tampering, canoodling,
Tampering. Yeah.
tampering.
I will say I found it interesting, like the week of the combine, yesterday on his Instagram, after there being like up and down messaging from the people close to him, Brandon Aiyuk did post a selfie in 49ers gear. So maybe his agent did some talking around and talked to the 49ers, and they were like, okay, well, we're gonna, compensate you in a way that would make you happy. Because I thought it was, I like the mind games that these players play on social media. I'm gonna make everyone around me go out and say that I'm leaving, and then I'm gonna post in a 49ers sweatshirt and get all the fans excited and back on my team.
I definitely think it's a positive, right? That,
Yeah.
so far it looks a lot different than Debo when he was, kind of going through a similar thing. Brandon Aiyuk hasn't scrubbed his Instagram. He's still posting selfies with 49ers gear. We like to see that. So I think it just shows that right now between both sides there's some good faith there that they're working through it, they're gonna get something done. I honestly feel more so than with Debo. I think there's more, like the 49ers want to get this deal done with Ayuk more so than they did with Debo, and with Debo they still managed to get it done. So yeah, that's how I feel. I feel pretty confident that, the 49ers want to do it and they will. It's just a matter of the when, and it might take a while, but I think it gets done.
I also think it gets done. Now, do you think that there's an opportunity that they're going to try to make Brandon Aiyuk play on his 5th-year option and then pay him next year? Or do you think no matter what, the contract, like he'll get an extension before this season starts?
Tough to say. I mean, it really depends how the negotiations go. I think, I hope they get it done before it comes to, going into the season, because For one, I would like an off season where Brock Purdy can actually work out with Brandon Aiyuk, and I want Aiyuk there for OTAs, and maybe that's kind of a long shot, but yeah, we'll see. But I do think if he doesn't get that deal, Brandon Aiyuk has no problem holding in, what they call it now. So
Do you
we'll
think that
just see
he
how that
would?
goes.
Now potentially he would pull like a Debo or a Brandon or Debo or Nick Bosa. Brandon Aiyuk will pull a Brandon Aiyuk and sit out for some of the training camp, but I can't imagine a player sitting out for the actual season. Like
And
I think he
they
would
get
want to
fined
play
way too
well
much.
because that would they get fined way too much. And even though obviously I think as fans we see Ayuk's potential, I think he would want to put another year. Like I think he would play and want to play well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I mean, I don't see it getting to that point, so I guess I'm not worried about it going into the season. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
we'll definitely have to wait and see. Definitely, everyone watching, please make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I recently hit over 2,000 subscribers. I was hoping to hit it before March, and I did meet that goal. So hopefully we can get to 3,000 soon now. Everyone make sure to like and subscribe to Steph's YouTube channel. We have to cut this stream a little bit short because Steph has something coming up, but make sure to keep it locked in. We'll talk more about the hires and what we think that means for the 49ers this upcoming season. Definitely never a dull day in 49er land. Seems like they're adding people in all the time. Oh, I kind of think that this person gave me a compliment, but so I was going to read it, but then they also said that I maybe come off ditzy, so a little bit interesting. But then they said deep down she's a guru breaking down hours.
They said you're grinding the tape.
I'm grinding the tape, guys. I do watch so much. I always want to give him a shout out because I feel like the 40 or like within the 49ers content creator people, everyone always talks about Johnny Footballs. He's
Johnny
obviously
Hill.
an amazing guy. And then
Croc
yeah,
too.
Brock, and then you have QB school. But I really recommend Jackson Kruger Sports. He covers like all the teams, but the first time I ever heard of him, it was like a couple of years ago, and he broke down like Shanahan and Shanahan's scheme and the multiple Super Bowl mistakes that have been made. And this was prior to this year. But he really has like an affliction, like a love for Mike and Kyle Shanahan. But he makes really digestible videos. Definitely not hours of film like this guy says, but I find them really interesting, and I've really enjoyed this year learning a lot more.